It's a new season of Georgia State football and a new season of Primetime Sportz Talk. Deacon David Shealy, Caleb Johnson with you. We are so ready to talk football. I know last year you just saw us doing Primetime Sportz Talk with basketball, but now we're doing football, and we'll get into basketball a little bit later, but it is fall, which means it's football season. Caleb Johnson, you did some Primetime Sportz analyzing the football earlier today with Nathan Nair, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you got to say after attending the game. We were both there, and unfortunately, Georgia State did come away with a loss in their final home opener against Ball State with a final score of 31-21. Ball State, like I said, coming away with the win. Caleb, give us your quick thoughts on what happened tonight.
Well, I think this team came out strong. They really looked to get the early lead. They had all the momentum on their side. You know, coming from, so many players were hyped because of, getting to a bowl game. They were, this is our season. We're going to run the tables. All of the hype was there for this to be a great season. They get into Ball State. Ball State is a lot better team than I wanted to give them credit for. Brand new coach. So, things are brand new within their program, trying to figure out who fits where. And just seeing this team come back and fight, keep it tied with Georgia State at halftime, and then to just finish it out. The third and fourth quarters belonged to Ball State. It's disappointing to see.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, as my dad always tells me, we talk about this on a weekly basis. He'll say, Caleb, any given team can be any other given team on any given Saturday. And this is what happened with Ball State and Georgia State, because I think Georgia State was the more talented team.
Yeah, I agree.
But they just couldn't put all of the puzzle pieces together to win this one.
Well, a lot of pieces missing for Georgia State tonight. And here's the funny thing. One of the biggest pieces that we didn't know about was who was going to start at quarterback. Aaron Winchester, Connor Manning. We got our answer tonight. You predicted Connor Manning, and Connor Manning certainly was the first guy on the field.
Yes, I saw that just because going to practice a couple of times, seeing him in the spring, seeing him in the scrimmage earlier this past month, he just looked like the guy who was going to take the lead. Some of the leadership qualities I saw out of him that I didn't necessarily see out of Aaron. And I think the coaches were kind of pushing towards, I said on the show on Primetime Sportz earlier that they brought him in for a reason. They recruited Aaron, but
right.
They went after a transfer because they were looking for someone to fill Nick Arbuckle's shoes quickly. And, as we understand, Nick Arbuckle, no one's going to match that kind of play that he had at Georgia State.
Right.
But I think they were looking to have lightning strike twice.
Yeah.
With Connor, it ended up being more of a battle. And, that's just, I saw Connor Manning being the starter. He started, and then as we find out, the whole plan didn't really matter who started, because Coach Miles told us in the press conference that both guys were going to see playing time.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing I guess the biggest surprise, because I asked Coach Miles, I said, well, at exactly what moment did you decide that Aaron Winchester was going to be in the game? And he said, well, we knew that weeks ago.
Yes.
He knew the plan actually was to put Aaron Winchester in to start the second half, but he didn't want folks to think that by putting Aaron in the game was his way of saying we're benching Connor and Connor messed up. And he didn't want people to think that. But here's the thing. Georgia State was losing when Winchester was put in the game. So it really still looks like that Connor Manning was benched tonight.
Yeah, I would actually, I would actually kind of question Coach Miles on that decision to say, hey, we're gonna wait to put Aaron in until we're losing.
Yeah.
It just, I know Coach, I guess, wasn't necessarily thinking of putting Aaron in when Georgia State was losing.
Right.
But it just seems like so much of a worse situation than at halftime, where it's a 14-14 game.
Right.
It's 0-0, in the grand scheme of things. And so to give Aaron a fresh slate coming in the second half, that seemed like what would have made the most sense to me, especially since Connor didn't have a terrible first half.
No, actually, Connor, for the entire day, 21 of 31, one interception, but also a touchdown, 163 yards for Connor Manning. And my thing is, at halftime, Ball State's getting ready to face Connor Manning for the second half.
Yes.
You come in here with Aaron Winchester, and Aaron Winchester's a completely different quarterback. He's dual threat, right? He can throw and he can run. And when he came in the game, we had like 5 straight scrambles from Aaron Winchester. That's going to throw them off. And so that, I think, Georgia State getting the ball first to start the second half, first of all. Aaron Winchester in at quarterback. He's running some plays. He's running around. He's making some quick throws. We're getting down the field. Georgia State marches all the way down the field, 21-14 lead. But that's not what happened. Georgia State came out second half with Connor Manning at quarterback. And I'm not saying it's Connor's fault, but, Ball State made some adjustments, and they blitzed the mess out of the Panthers tonight.
Yes. And one thing with that blitz that we've got to talk about, there was no run game for the Georgia State Panthers.
No.
There was definitely a run game for the Cardinals.
Oh, Lord.
But there was no run game. I talked about earlier with Nathan about I knew there was going to be a running back by committee, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw Glenn Smith. We saw DeMarcus Kirk. We saw Kendrick Dorn.
Yeah.
So,
but they all combined for what? How many yards here? No, not a lot. In fact,
no.
Aaron Winchester had 59 yards rushing and a touchdown, and he came in the second half. And the only reason Georgia State ended up with 77 rushing yards as a team tonight was because of Aaron Winchester.
Yeah, one of the things that Coach Miles talked about in the press conference is when they got to halftime, Georgia State had 2 rushing yards.
Yep, that is true.
2.
They had 2 rushing yards. And just to answer any questions that you may have about the Ball State running game that Caleb was talking about, they had 325 rushing yards. 325 rushing yards. In fact, I'm gonna put this number out here. 325 rushing yards by Ball State. As a total offense, Georgia State only had 272. So you've got a team running for more yards than you're getting as an entire unit. Yeah, you're gonna lose, and that's why they lost by 10, easily. I mean, it was terrible. And I'm gonna give credit to the sophomore of Ball State, James Gilbert, who ran for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns today. In fact, he punched it in on a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. So I think he played a good game. And they also had a guy out there at receiver, Kevon Mabin, 69 yards, 8 catches. I think he was a great challenge for Jerome Smith and Chandon Sullivan, who we're going to give Jerome Smith some love a little bit later.
Yes.
But I have to give some love to Ball State because they won. And as you know, inside joke here, I'm from Indiana. Ball State is in Indiana, so I have friends. In fact, one of the tight ends for Ball State I went to high school with. We got that out the way? Cool, let's move on. Ball State all across the board, except for their quarterback, actually.
Quarterback play was terrible.
Yeah, he wasn't good. Everybody except for Riley Neal was good. Riley Neal, 15 of 29 with no touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions came by Jerome Smith.
Yes. The one thing, though, that it was a little scary to see, it was in the 4th quarter when Neal went on a bit of a scramble.
Oh, goodness.
He booked it down the field, and, he's not a mobile quarterback. That's
Not at all.
That's not, he's not a dual threat, how we would think of, quarterbacks being able to run. And he busted it down the field in the 4th quarter, and it was just embarrassing. It was just seeing the defense just give up in that moment was... it was hard to watch.
It was pathetic. Let's just call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. It was pathetic. That was a 46-yard run by a true sophomore in Riley Neal. And what's really funny, you think back at that bowl game, their quarterback, I can't remember his name right now, but the quarterback of San Jose State basically did the same thing. The only difference is the San Jose quarterback took it all the way for a touchdown and even shook Bobby Baker in the process. This time, you've got Riley Neal getting free, getting all the way inside the Georgia State 30 for a huge first down. And then the very next play, it's a touchdown for Ball State. So everything about that was pathetic. And I want to reach this point, too. You talked to Nathan about the record that you thought Georgia State would have. and you said 6-6. You were even generous to say 7-5. We spoke on the sideline at the Georgia Dome as we were looking at the time, a 31-14 score. And we both agreed that Georgia State will be starting the season 0-4.
Yes. I mean, you want to be optimistic. As a fan, you want to be optimistic of this team.
It's true.
But you're going into Air Force.
Yeah.
You're going into Wisconsin. These are not games that you can just win.
Right. And don't forget the opponent after that, Appalachian State, who gave Tennessee one heck of a ball game.
Overtime.
I mean, by the skin of their teeth, Tennessee pulled that out. By the skin of their teeth. And Appalachian State didn't just kind of win the Sun Belt last year. They dominated the Sun Belt last year.
And they dominated Georgia State last season. And unfortunately, I think that will be the same that they do this year. Then you go into coming home, playing Texas State. Thankfully, we manhandled Texas State last year. And you just hope that Georgia State going 0-4 won't go 0-5, that'll be a bit of a turning point for this season.
Yeah.
Or it could get really ugly, and we could have a coach in the hot seat once again.
The same coach finds himself in the hot seat twice. You heard it here first at Primetime Sportz. He's not in the hot seat yet.
No.
But after tonight, it's warming up, and it's only going to get warmer because it only really makes sense. Unless you never really know, because you did say your dad says any given team can beat any given team. Any given team can beat any given team on any given Saturday. I wanted to make sure I get that right because your dad is a pastor as well as mine, and I don't want to misquote any man of God. But 0-4, we have that as a starting point. But what's the finishing record now?
I think 4-8.
4-8.
From this point on, I think it's 4-7. I think there will be 4 games that they're able to pull out, like Texas State, UT Martin. I mean, that's a homecoming game. The Division II school we should be able to knock off. You got your South Alabama. Those are the teams that I see Georgia State being able to beat. But as I spoke earlier, I don't think a recreation of what we experienced at Southern last year is going to happen again. So it's going to be a rough season.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too negative, though, because listening to Coach Miles talk in the press conference, he's saying, basically forget all the people that are saying we're done just one game into the season. And there's so much speculation that can be made about one game. But when you follow up a very winnable game with very difficult opponents away from your home crowd, in which we got to admit, home crowd they came out tonight.
Yeah, they were pretty decent tonight.
They came out tonight.
They announced, I think, over 12,000 people.
Yeah, which is a big improvement from last season.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is, it's good. We win a bowl game. People want to watch Georgia State football. I really hope that seeing a loss like this doesn't turn people away come Texas State in October.
Right, and with us thinking that Georgia State's about to lose this entire 3-game road trip, I don't know how many people will be at that game coming in October against Texas State. But that's all the negative stuff. We do have to be positive here because just like basketball season, we're going to give out game balls for football. We don't have a football sitting right here, but we will, and it's going to be nice and beautiful. It's going to have our little logo on it, and at the end of the season, we'll get whoever the winner is to sign it, just like we did last year with basketball. So I'm going to let you go first, and you give me who you think deserves the game ball tonight.
I'm going to go and do a little bit something that we don't normally do. And this won't be my game ball pick, but I do want to give a shout out to head coach Mike New. This is his first win as a head coach for Ball State. Typically, brand new head coaches, they don't get the wins like this. He played a good game, being a quarterback coach for guys in the National Football League. He worked with the Saints just last year. So he knew what he was doing, so got to give Mike New credit for getting that first win. But, I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
As far as anybody that we could pick from Georgia State that balled out, that really showed he had some fight. We got to talk to him at the press conference. Jerome Smith. I mean, you know, you get 2 interceptions, really, should have been 3. And, you know, you got to give credit where credit is due.
Right.
He put this team in a position to win, and just, you know, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And to see him kind of beat himself up and be like, I've got to be more of a leader. I've got to do more on the field.
Right.
Me and Shannon Sullivan have got to work better as a team.
Yeah.
You know, I know he's thinking those things in his head. But I did respect the man for saying one thing. Is he said, you know, Ball State's in the past now. You know, I don't want to think about Ball State. I'm focused on Air Force, and you want that from that defensive position. You know, the just forget it, move on, and focus on the next play, and for him to focus on the next team.
Right.
So Jerome Smith that's my guy. 2 interceptions, man. He did it.
Well, I can't disagree with you. I'm going to have to go with the redshirt sophomore, Jerome Smith. Jerome Smith got the first touchdown of the entire season.
Yeah.
Pick 6. He got a pick 6,
exciting.
and it was awesome. It was, I think, 48 yards officially, so a 48-yard interception return by Jerome Smith, who, by the way, is actually kind of a funny guy. I mean, I don't think he was intentionally trying to be funny, but at the end of the press conference, he asked us any more questions.
Yeah.
And no player ever has ever said, any more questions? No one's ever said that. So he's unintentionally kind of funny, but I like him a little bit more because of that. So Jerome Smith, you get my game ball. You got 2 interceptions. Should have been 3 because on that 4th and goal, Ball State tried to trick us. They rolled out, and they threw a ball to the back of the end zone to the tight end. Bobby Baker climbs the ladder. Because first of all, I didn't even know
up there.
I didn't even know Bobby Baker had hops like that. Okay, climbs the ladder, straight Julio Jones gets in the air, knocks it up in the air. Another tight end or receiver for Ball State kind of volleys the ball back up.
Oh, yeah.
And Jerome Smith got under it. To me, to Caleb, and to a lot of other folks standing on the sideline and in the booth, they believe that Jerome Smith got under the ball and secured it for the interception to give Georgia State the ball back, who at the time was only down 3. But the officials reviewed it. They said it was incomplete. And because of that, Georgia State took over at their own 1-yard line instead of getting a touchback and going to the 20.
And think about this. That 1-yard line that they started at, that was where Aaron Winchester got to start his career as a Georgia State quarterback. I mean, what pressure to be in, to have to start at the 1-yard line and to get a quarterback sneak.
Yeah, and not only that, I do want to give him credit because he did lead them all the way to the 45.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the drive did stall, but he did lead them all the way to the 45. But the only reason they even got to do that is because Bobby Baker and Jerome Smith made a play there. So Jerome Smith for you, Jerome Smith for me. So once that ball comes in, and it will come in one day, and you'll see it right here on the desk. We're going to initial it, and then we'll move on to the Air Force game, and of course Wisconsin, Appalachian State, which, yes, we see them losing, but you never know because any given team can beat any given team on any given Saturday. And any given Saturday, you will see us doing some Primetime Sports Talk. So for Primetime Sports Talk, I'm the Deacon David Shealy. This is Caleb Johnson. We'll see you guys next time.